All right, guys, we're here for another episode of that thing where we talk about stuff with Putty. It's like a podcast thing, movie style. Here's my guest host, and like he's all basically always the guest host, so I don't even know if he's a guest anymore.
Yeah, right.
P.
It's a
Puttersworth.
regular series. Oh, what's up? What's up? It's a regular series now. So usually, if you're on, I'm usually on then.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think there was any other episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
uh,
So
yeah,
get used to it, ladies and gentlemen. Get used to it. I'm part of Campo Reviews now.
he owns the channel. He bought the rights. He's Disney, and I'm like Fox.
Yeah, exactly. Except I seem to be the one that wants to be Deadpool way more than he wants to be, probably.
Well, you
uh,
could be Deadpool if you want.
exactly.
Okay, so let's just talk about Captain Marvel and things about that place. You tell me.
Okay, well, I mean, before I was going to get into it, I'm not familiar with what you've seen so far. As far as if you've seen the most recent Avengers Endgame trailer, and
Oh yeah, I'm good.
okay,
I'm good.
okay. So we both have seen the movie. Now I've done my own review, which you could definitely go out and check that out as
We'll
well.
link to that. We'll link to that.
Okay. So basically, my review was very kind to it, only because I've read the comics. I'm very familiar with a lot of the characters from this movie, so I was very kind to it because I was very happy with a lot of things that were resulted in there. But there's been a lot of mixed reviews, and I even stated that a lot of critics have been harsh on it. I'm not familiar if you, John, have actually read the comics or familiar with any of the background story. So I don't know if you got lost when you were watching it. I think it was a great adaptation. I was a little bit upset with things, kind of like the way they treated the scrolls towards the end,
Yeah.
which I feel they totally tamed them way too much
Well,
for.
let's not go too deep there yet.
Okay. So, first thing I wanted to ask you, John, just in particular, was I was delighted by the movie. I can't say it's in my top five. I know why it's not in the top five because it's an origin story, just like Captain America, things of that nature. But you yourself, based on someone that may not have read the comic, how did you feel about it? Did you feel there was too much substance there and it was too exhausting, or did you enjoy the ride as you watched it?
Um. Okay, so background story for this. I have read Captain Marvel, but
Okay.
okay, so I was never a fan of Captain Marvel. I never gave a crap about the character. I always found it a huge knockoff of DC, not as what the character does, but because they stole the name. And I was always a bigger DC fan, as people should know by now, at least.
Right.
So that I was always upset about that, and I didn't care about it. It changed from a guy to a girl, but then she changed her name to Miss Marvel, and then there's a whole nonsense. Okay, but
Right.
I when I started reading comics more, I got really into reading very obscure characters. That's what the stuff I liked. So, what is it? Fantastic Foes of Spider-Man or Superior Foes of Spider-Man,
Right.
Superior Spider-Man, Guardians, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange. Like I was reading like the Animal Man from DC, like the stuff that is not like the most mainstream stuff that they're making, because I found that they had more freedom to do what they wanted in those comics. So I started reading the more recent run of Captain Marvel before Civil War 2.
Okay.
So I think there was like 3 volumes of it, and I really liked it. It was like Guardians of the Galaxy the movie, where she went around and she was putting together a team, and I was like, I really like this character. And this is the version of the comic that most of this movie is based on. So going in, I was like, oh my god, I can't wait, I can't wait. And then the bad reviews, whatever, like I understand that whole crap. Is this a good movie? It's yes, okay, but it's not a special movie. It's nowhere near any of the better Marvel movies for me. Did I
Right.
have a better time than I thought I was gonna have? Yes. Did it beat what critics were saying about it? Yes, but it
Hmm.
still wasn't good, and it has a lot of huge flaws that I think a lot of people overlook. Which you did mention one of them. We'll go back into like deeper digging, right?
Right.
But like for me, out of the 21 Marvel movies, it's like 15th or 14th. Like it was nowhere near bad. It was not even close to one of the bad ones. Like,
Right.
but it was not like from the ones we've been getting lately. Like Marvel has consistently been putting out either really good ones or adequate ones that are like exactly what you wanted. But this movie to me felt like a step backwards. Like it was just going in the wrong direction. So as far as deep diving goes into it, I need to know if did you notice how bad the CGI was outside of the faces?
Yeah. Okay. No, that was another thing. Yeah. No, the faces were the ones I picked up most of all
But
on
they
it.
were
Like, I
good.
mean,
I liked the
yeah.
faces, but everything it's like they blew the whole budget on fixing Samuel L. Jackson's face, and then the final fight scene looked like someone just drew her on the screen, like well in the middle of the fight.
No, I agree. Especially if you're talking about the space battle scene where she actually finds her powers to fly.
Yeah,
Yeah, that one felt pretty bad. You can definitely see it, and I saw it in 3D, so I can definitely see it when I was watching it. I guess for me, it's kind of like the whole I call it the Avatar syndrome. Everyone was praising Avatar, and they were like, oh, Avatar is awesome, and I personally think it was just the whole hype of the 3D and the CGI and there's people that love it more than I can ever love it myself. But I think that's what emotionally invested me in this is because, um, unfortunately for Marvel, now that I see, like for example, they just said actually it was yesterday that the deal was finalized with the Fox thing, which
yeah.
means it's done, and I think what it is my mind might have been kind of overshadowed by the hype train because the thing is, I see a lot of potential in upcoming movies for Captain Marvel. So I was able to look at this movie and go, okay, there's a lot of problems in it, but at the same time, it feels like there's a potential for some really great stories.
Oh, for sure,
Yeah, but at
for
the same
sure.
time, I have problems because how are we the way they treated and again we said we were going to talk about this and everything but I've got to bring it up because it's something that stems onto other characters because Captain Marvel and a lot of the characters from the Captain Marvel universe also stem from the Fantastic Four universe and with them finally getting the Fox deal, I want super scrolls, I want things of that nature, and how I feel like we may have made a plot hole in that situation if we're trying to make them look the way they were portrayed in this movie. And I'm thinking maybe that could be changed. Maybe I'm just not seeing it and they've got an idea for it. But that's what made me kind of shadowed by little things like that, where even the CGI, when I watched the CGI, for someone that doesn't know about the scrolls, then the CGI would have been pointed out way
Well,
more in that situation.
the scrolls. Let's. I just want to. They're very comic book accurate. The way they look.
Yeah, yeah, well, I agree on that. I agree on that
They're
totally.
some of the best looking characters that Marvel has ever done based on the character from the comic book. And
Right.
they're nowadays their comic books are catering to the movie audience. If you're reading Marvel now, this is I have completely almost stopped reading Marvel because instead of making movies about the comic books, now they're making comic books about the movies.
Yeah.
So it's not even there's not even two different universes anymore. The comic books are in continuity a lot of the times with the movie universe. It's just okay. It's not exactly, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. The the CGI was a big letdown. Avatar is a whole nother book. We can do a whole episode on Avatar. I don't even Avatar is fine. It's I never liked it. I never understood why anybody liked it. It's a beat by beat exact copy of Dances with Wolves from the 90s with Kevin Costner. Like it's the exact same movie but with aliens.
No, I
And
totally agree.
and yes, the graphics, but like after seeing Infinity War and Ant-Man and Wasp and Aquaman and Alita Battle Angel, to go and look at the CGI in this movie is like embarrassing. Like, how did you take 20 steps backwards? You made the best looking de-aged faces I've ever seen in my entire life, but then you fucked up everything else for the whole movie.
No, I totally agree on that. And like I said, I think that's the reason why, in my situation, um, I think that's also why this movie was put out right before Endgame. Uh, I think that a lot of things were set up, and a lot of like I agree with one reviewer where he said that this is basically like a trailer for Avengers Endgame, and I can understand why they did that way. There was the laziness. There was a lot of laziness when it came into this, and I feel like the CGI, especially with the fight scenes at the end, really did. It felt like it was something they said, okay, we're going to put that in there, but we're going to work on it last. We're going to make sure that we get stories built up with Samuel Jackson and with Nick Fury's character and so on and so forth. Which even in that situation, you know I guess because again there were a lot of things that overshadowed for me that I noticed for you the CGI was just something that was bothersome, and I totally agree. And again, but at the same time, I also can say that about some other movies have done it as well. So
But the
I
thing, okay, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. But
yeah
my point with that is we've seen every movie up to this point, not even in the MCU, progressively get better and better
oh
and
yeah oh
better
yeah
and better. The way it looks, CGI wise, even filming wise, like the cinematography. This movie's so like bland the way it's filmed, and it's so the CGI is such a step backwards, except for the faces on all the DH people that it blew my mind. I was like, how have we been going forward, 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 and then we get to this, the newest movie out, and it took 5 steps back. Okay, but let's talk about the Skrulls because they completely. These are spoiler alert. These are in the comics. These are like up in the top 5 all-time villains that Marvel has ever had. Like
correct.
bad guys that have caused the most problems. They've never been good. They're
No.
always the biggest villains we've ever had, and then all of a sudden they're not the bad guys.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how did you do that? How did you fuck that up?
That
Now,
see
how are
that's
you gonna do Secret Wars story if you can't use the Skrulls as bad guys?
Yep, exactly. That was the biggest thing. See, um, while I was watching this, I was excited to see the scrolls and everything, and to see them hidden, and every little detail that up until the point of when they revealed that they're only trying to help their species and protect those they love. My mind went, okay, there's got to be a deeper meaning. There's got to be something that's going to happen at the end. And then when we finally saw the husband and wife situation with the scrolls and everything, with I can't think of the scroll's name. But my point to the whole thing is
Australian
my
guy.
yeah, my brain went, are you kidding me? Like I was hoping there would be a twist, and there wasn't. And that's what really broke me. Like even I think I might have been broken, and that's the reason why the CGI didn't phase me at that point
Yeah,
because
yeah, I get it.
at that point when I saw I'm in my head I'm sitting there going through all the stories and past the scrolls have went through like when I first knew that the scrolls were going to be in this movie and then I knew the Fox deal was going through. I'm just thinking about the scrolls, the super scroll that has all the powers of the Fantastic Four, and thinking, oh my god, they can finally do this is going to be epic. And then all of a sudden my brain went into a reset mode when I saw the scrolls in this compassionate manner, and I was like, "Oh, what?" And I'm like, "How are they going to do this? How are they going to fix this?" And at the same time, I can see how. I mean, there's potential to fix it. Maybe that's the reason why they did it. Maybe they broke it. And this is what I was thinking in my head when this happened. I'm thinking maybe that's the reason why the whole snap thing, because we still have the whole evolution X-Men. We still have the Fantastic Four. Maybe they're going to do something different, and the snap will change things because. Clearly, we see that there is going to be time travel when it comes into the end game thing, and if you're not familiar with that, then you clearly haven't been, focusing on things, or at least I believe. Again, I could be wrong. They always throw twists at us, but the main point of the whole thing is whenever I watch a Marvel movie now, it wasn't like I used to with Iron Man. I was excited about Avengers, but I wasn't piecing things together as much as I do nowadays. And I know because of Endgame being the last of the Infinity Saga, that we're going to move on to something else. But at the same time, if you're going to move on to something else, a lot of the storylines within the Marvel Universe use scrolls. So for you to diminish what is big about them makes me go, are you going to be able to fix this? Or are we going to ignore the elephant in the room when it comes to being a geek and just say, screw it all, we're just going to rewrite everything, just like they did with Star Wars, where they just basically said, okay, all this canon stuff before, no longer canon. It's not part of the story anymore. So sorry, scrolls are good now. And if that is true, then I understand that you can make things potentially awesome for other major fans out there that only watch the movies. But don't forget the hardcore fans. No matter how much you're trying to transition MCU into the comic books, don't forget the ones that actually put the money in your hands and originally to make it to this point to you get to the MCU. Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to John and Campo reviews. I am Putty Man. So we just went ahead and take a break from my spiel there, and I will say that we did lose a little bit of track there, but now that we've gone back from the break, I'm gonna go ahead and let you continue from here, John, because I know I want to spiel about how I felt about the scrolls thing, and I'm sure you agree with me and why it disoriented me. Am I correct?
Yeah. Okay. So they didn't do the scrolls right. We know
Right.
that. We've talked about this now. Um. So this is my thing though. When you're saying that, oh, the comic book audience give the comic book people this movie, for the weirdest. This movie wasn't made for comic book people. This movie was made to suck money out of like the feminist audience, which I don't even mean that in a bad way. Like they don't even realize that this movie was literally just made to milk them, and it became something it wasn't because this movie's not super like feminist. So I don't know where all this shit started from,
Yep.
but I don't know if you noticed that this was just your regular comic book movie when you watch it. But the thing is, they didn't make this movie to cater to us, even though that's ended up who it was for. It ended up being for the comic book fan, even though they screwed up a lot of things about it. But it was that movie. It was being used as a vessel to milk money. If
No,
the hype wasn't around the movie of what's happening, sorry, I know you're trying to, but if the hype wasn't around it that happened, this movie was not making as much money as it did. It still probably would have made a lot, but to me, if you're trying to watch this female hero type movie, and I'm not going to tell people what they should watch, but to me, the one that I felt like powerful from the scenes where things happen, Alita Battle Angel first of all, and Wonder Woman. Like when Wonder Woman runs across the trench, I was like, holy crap, this is like a badass, like I don't care, I'm gonna save the world woman. Like
right.
Captain Marvel has no intentions of being a hero. She just happens to fall into it at the end of the movie.
No, and I totally agree with that. And then that's the thing. I'm my thing is there's always been, especially with when it came to DC and Marvel, there's always been, especially with her having her powers, DC has always fought. There was always that fight of it being a copycat of Superman, that kind of thing, and I think that's the stigma that I also have when it comes to this. Like I love the background characters. I have nothing. Brie Larson I felt was great as Captain Marvel, but at the same time, in the situation, when you have such a powerful character, I think it deals with what I call the Superman stigma, where you don't like the big thing for me when it came to Wonder Woman. Like I haven't seen Alita Bad Angel, unfortunately. And if you guys are familiar with the channel and Nikki Picky, you know of a friend of ours named Tasmaniac and everything. I heard bad reviews on his end, but then of course he's not a movie guy, so I haven't gotten to see Alita Bad Angel, so I really can't put my own thoughts on how good it is and things of that nature. So the only one I can compare it to is Wonder Woman, and that being said, that's also the other problem that happens for me is because with the whole Wonder Woman saga, when you're dealing with something back in the days where female strength, female empowerment within a world war was much different than what we have with this space age look of the 90s for Captain Marvel. We are looking at two different worlds, but the way they did it in DC was with Wonder Woman, she was empowered to help people. You know what I mean? In Captain Marvel, we don't have that whole empowerment to help people. And I think what it is, in my eyes, is I wanted that, but at the same time, there's so much stuff in the Captain Marvel universe that they tried to fit in so much stuff, which for me was some stuff. Some of the stuff was okay because, for example, first and foremost, I hate how they. Which we're gonna go into that. How they changed some things, even with like some of the characters, like the cat Goose, which should be called Chewie, but I'm not. That's a huge other part of why. I don't understand why,
Well,
but
that's they didn't want to have people be confused because Disney owns Chewbacca. That's literally why they released a statement saying
That's
that.
the stupid thing. The reason why the whole goose thing is happening in the first place is because of the piloting, which Chewie is a pilot. You shouldn't. I don't think anybody would have been confused. There honestly would not been any confusion in my eyes in that situation.
Well,
And heck, you own the name for Chewie and everything. You could have made a joke about that directly to the Star Wars universe, intertwining the universes if you
that
wanted
would
to
have
in your
been,
own way.
and I agree that I said that. That would have been smart.
Yeah. But my whole point is, I agree. I didn't get that whole feeling I did with Wonder Woman when she got on the battlefield. And when I watched the movie, I was excited more with background stuff and what to expect when goes into it. So I did feel like it was kind of like my way of getting hyped up for Endgame, and it may not have hyped me up as much as I wanted to. So in that situation, yeah, I'm always going to put Wonder Woman above this movie. Um, but at the same time, it's so hard for me to actually compare it to Wonder Woman only because the universes are so different. Because I was more excited about little things here and there that connected the universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe within this movie. That alone, if Captain Marvel, this movie, and I have to tell it when I say this, I'm basically downfalling it, and it would have got a lower score for me if this happened. If this was not within the MCU, this would have been an even worse movie because putting it in being part of the MCU makes it to where we get to see hidden little treats about how the MCU is going to fit together in some way. If this movie was by itself, I think it would have flopped a lot worse, lot worse if it wasn't part of the MCU. And that's the biggest thing for me is why I love and hate this movie. I'm so mixed about it is because of this nature of wanting to keep it consistent with the MCU and keep and giving us all these backstories of, you know, how Nick Fury loses his eye, where she's been all this time, why she's so crucial to the Infinity Saga, and
Yeah,
so on and so.
you no,
You know,
okay. And there's something so stupid here. Okay, so when they retconned Captain Marvel, okay, and then in the new wave of comic books, as right now, if you read comic books, Marvel in the last like 4 years has restarted 3 times in like
true. I
five
didn't know that.
years. So they started at issue ones with Marvel Now, and
Mm.
then they started again with the next one, and now they've kind of started again. And in the newest rendition, or like the Civil War II era, Captain Marvel has all of a sudden become this extremely OP person in preparation for the movie to be made. Like Captain Marvel in the whole history of Marvel Comics was never one of the strongest people. Like stronger, but never one of
Right.
the strongest. And now she's literally like, people are dropping lists on the internet that I've been watching about like the strongest Marvel characters, and she's top 3 on like every list. And it's like she was never they purposely OP'd her in the new world of comic books to make it that in the for the movie she would be OP to fight Thanos. Like it's so stupid. And like the problem I have with Captain Marvel is she was never a character. Even the guy, it was a character that was used just to take the copyright of the name. And if you go back look at the history, every like time the contract was about to expire for the copyright, Marvel would make like a 7 issue run of Captain Marvel, and then
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't see
Mm-hmm.
Captain Marvel again for 10 years. And it's like all of a sudden, right when we're about to make a movie, this character's coming back hard for the next couple years. Because when she was Miss Marvel, yes, she did have a few comic book runs. But then there's that whole thing about her and her son, and like it's like no, just Marvel was smoking crack. But I don't want to stay on this for too long. I'm not a fan of Brie Larson. I've never have been. I've always thought she was overrated. This is pre even knowing about this controversy. I'm one of like probably the last people to find out about this controversy. Like I didn't even know about it until like a couple days before I went to watch the movie. But I never liked her. I always thought she was overrated. Her best actual performance is in The Room or Room,
Mm-hmm.
and she wasn't even like actress of the year quality in that movie, and she won somehow. So go figure, whatever. But like I kept telling people, I'm like, name me a good Brie Larson movie where she gives a good performance that's not Room, and nobody could do it. Like all her movies are like background roles in comedies or action movies. And for me in this, she wasn't bad. All of the comedy was gold. She
Yeah.
nailed every single scene with comedy, but anytime she had to really act, everyone else just acted circles around her. Like her friend, that Maria Rambo or whatever, was such a
Mm-hmm.
good actress that like I almost felt bad that Brie Larson had to be there for those moments. That girl was literally like just like smashing her in the head with acting skills, and she's just like, "Hi, I'm Captain Marvel."
Right. Well, see, that's the funny thing too. Maria's not even going to be a crucial part anymore because you got to remember, her daughter Monica is the one that ends up becoming a major character within the Marvel universe, unless of course the new comics have changed that as well. And that's a major thing that was worrisome for me was I saw Monica. I was excited because of the girl that plays the little girl that plays Monica did a great job in my eyes of that character. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that makes me excited to see exactly what they potentially could do now that they're in the present instead of not being in the 90s. And of course, she's going to be an adult now, which means that she has potential of getting her powers. Or are we going to ignore that she was even in the room?
Yeah,
And that's the major thing. Because see, I have a lot of things that I still love about this movie, which I wanted to make sure we point out some of the stuff I do love, and I was excited about, especially dealing with the late great Stan Lee that happened in this. That actually I want to talk to you about, and I actually didn't find out until after I saw the movie, and I kicked myself for not realizing what it was from. So before we get into that, so my whole thing is when it comes to the characters, I have to agree. I like Brie Larson. I love her. I do. I will. I'm gonna be a little indifferent from you than say that I liked her in this role, but I will say that as far as the other actors, they did overshadow her. But at the same time, we do also have stellar actors within this movie. You know what I mean? The guy that,
everybody else to me was really good. It was just
yeah,
she wasn't even bad. She was just bland. Like, and you know what? I'm not even gonna fault her, to be honest with you. The writing gave her nothing.
right.
Like, there's so many scenes where she's just standing there looking, and everyone else is
Hmm.
acting, and she's not even talking. Like, how does she not have speaking parts?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
right.
sorry.
Well, that's my whole point. Like, Samuel Jackson always give me a great actor. The actor that played Clark Gregg, I think his name, or Greg, I can't remember exactly his
Clark
name, but
Gregg.
I plays Phil Coulson. Loved him in this role. There's barely any of him in there, but
Yeah, I
him
thought
as
the
an actor.
Skrull guy was good.
Oh, okay. Now he was good, but that's the problem. I was still overshadowed by the whole thing. I think that's what broke me for him. He's a great actor. When he was in Rogue One, he was fantastic in that. But then all of a sudden, my brain broke when the scroll thing happened. So that might have, again, when you take something like that and take like something like that and really change it for someone like me, it alters my opinion of the role,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
but
And that's
his
the.
it didn't take away. Fully understand what you're saying,
Mhm.
but that didn't take away from his performance.
No, no, but that.
The character just became like a piece of the movie that you were like, why the whole time, why? But he
Yeah.
still acted well. And like Jude Law was a waste. Jude Law was they were just like, here,
Oh
read
my
this
God.
paper. They're like, read this paper,
Yeah.
and he's like, okay, big number, glickety glorps, and they're like, okay, good. Now let's go back to everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. I
Uh,
agree. And that's again, I praised it for its good parts, and I downfall for its bad parts, and the acting all around, I didn't have any too many problems with. As far as Captain Marvel herself, as far as Carol Danvers herself, there wasn't the back of the associate characters, Samuel Jackson, everyone else, are what made this movie shine. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, 100%.
I mean, heck, even and you know what? I want to bring this up because the reason I want to bring this up is because I don't know if you noticed this, John, but the Stan Lee cameo, even though it literally was not Stan Lee that actually did that part at that time, was so significant to me.
What do you mean? That's
That
Stan Lee, isn't it?
that is Stan Lee, but do you realize what? Okay, do you understand what was going on in that part, right?
Yeah, he's reading the script for Mallrats.
Exactly. Well, the way I found out was I was listening when I watched the movie. I was hearing that, and I go, "Wow, that sounds familiar." But I was like all excited, like that's awesome, that's Stan Lee. And then Brie Larson smiles and looks at him, and then it moves on. But I didn't notice what he had in his hand. So then I got home, and I'm actually subscribed to Kevin Smith's YouTube, to where anything he says pops up on my YouTube. So I'm always watching all his new stuff. And he started talking about that appearance. And it actually, Kevin Feige actually contacted him and said, "Do you have any times where Stan Lee in Mallrats screwed up his lines?" And Kevin said, "Yeah, I do." And he sent them to Kevin Feige, and those are what you hear in Captain Marvel are the actual lines he screwed up in Mallrats, but they made it to look like he was actually rehearsing his lines.
That makes sense. That's good.
Yeah, and for them to do that, and that's where it kind of it breaks me, is where they take so much care into something like that, which again, it made me love this movie a little bit more just because they took that care to do that. That I had so much mixed feelings about this movie because of the beginning thing with what they did with Stan Lee. Like literally, I was in the theater opening night and people applauded when that Marvel logo came up and was
Agreed.
all Stan.
Okay, so to go on you on that, I love that Stanley cameo. Okay, the thing at the beginning, I'm not saying bad. It was nice. Okay, but it
Mm-hmm.
was literally just like a it's pictures of Stan Lee. I was like, this is what all the fucking hype's about. No offense. I know a lot of people liked it, but like people were writing in their reviews for this movie that like they had me at the moment I saw Stan Lee on the thing, and I watched it and I was like, it's like a 12, not even, it's like a 6 second clip of just pictures of him going by on a screen. I was like, who the fuck cares? Sorry, I know people do care,
Right.
but like for me, I was like, whatever. Like that was not the Mallrats thing meant so much more to me
Oh,
than that. I know, I agree. I'm not saying you're saying that, but it bothered me when I kept reading that. Like this movie's worth watching just for the Stan Lee thing at the beginning. I'm like, it's 6 seconds long, like, and the thing that they put so much little care into those details, and then don't put any care into the rest of the movie is what bothers me. It's like
yeah.
you're giving me all these little 90s nuggets. You're giving me all these Captain Marvel nuggets. You're giving me all these Marvel nuggets, and then you made a movie that nobody's gonna care about in 2 years from now. Like you just gave me Black Panther in Avengers Infinity War, and like a really funny follow up to Ant-Man and the Wasp, even though to me it wasn't as good. And then you're gonna give me this. This is like the quality of movies that they were making after Iron Man, the first Iron Man. This is equivalent to Thor 1 and 2, to Incredible Hulk. Like this is just an average run of the mill 90s or late 2000s superhero movie.
Right.
But like I don't want to stay on this for too long. Just one huge thing that bothered me about this movie was the fact that the Tesseract is in it, and
Mm-hmm.
that completely retcons every single thing that we've come to learn about the Tesseract and how it came to be. Because there's in Avengers it talks about it, in Thor it talks about it, in what's the other movie that it's in?
The
Crap.
Tesseract.
Yeah, it's
Well, they talk about it in Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's not actually in there.
but I'm saying there's so many. They kept progressing with the story of it, and now all of a sudden it's been there since the 90s because Captain Marvel found it. And you're like, what? And my whole theory for this is completely like off this movie now. The next Captain Marvel movie, maybe that girl, the daughter's in it. My
Mm-hmm.
my theory is it's gonna take place in the 2000s, so it will be after the first one, but before all the other Marvel movies still. So I think the story of Captain Marvel to get to know her better is gonna be through a constant trilogy of prequels. Everything will take place before Infinity War and all of her solo movies is my theory.
Okay. Well, in that I will say this. Upon doing my research and everything, I don't think that's going to happen, and this is just my opinion too as well. But the reason why I don't think that's going to happen is because even Kevin Feige said that this whole setup, all this stuff has been for Infinity War. Everything has been set up for Infinity War, and then that's even including this Captain Marvel movie. That everything had its little reasons for being here, there, and everywhere to set up for this final movie that we're going to get next month. And and then from there, once the Infinity Saga ends, they're starting with the new one, and the new thing is going to end up bringing X Men and Fantastic Four in. So it could be a story with Galactus that could potentially go into either even Secret Wars or anything like that. Which again, I don't know how they're going to do it. My point, or I don't even know what they're going to do.
I
But
think
my
they're
point,
gonna go small twice. Sorry, but I think they're gonna go small twice. just
I
like
think you're going
this.
to go. Okay.
So it's
Well.
gonna be a small villain, and then like Galactus.
Oh yeah. No, I agree on that. No, I agree on that. But what I'm stating is I think once this end game is done, there will be no mention of stones. Stones will be gone. There will be no more mention of it. And at the same time, unless if they do make a Captain Marvel and they make it 2000, then it has to be something that has been out there this whole time that hasn't been mentioned that will be mentioned in the next Captain Marvel
But they
movie.
could do it because, okay, at the end of Captain Marvel, she's gone.
Yeah.
So now you're talking from this point of this movie to where we are now is like 25 years later.
Right.
So I think that there's a lot of story to tell about her going around being a superhero for the rest of the galaxy that you could easily make a whole movie about.
Right.
So that's just what I'm saying. Okay, but anyways, rate this movie out of 10.
Out of 10, for me, I would give it a 7. I mean, I didn't. Well, no, I would say 6. I mean, the thing is I'm giving it a 7 because of it potentially. Yeah, I'm gonna still say 7 because of the Stan Lee Mallrats cameo and little things from me that made it good. I mean, at the same time, a lot of my Marvel movies are between 5 to 10, so that they never got lower than that because I do have things to compare to, like the original X-Men or X-Men 3. We have a lot of those movies to compare to. So within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I would probably give it a 5, but as in comic book movies, I would still give it a 7.
To me, it's a 7.1, which is completely strange since I've been like against it the whole time and you've been for it. But the worst movie for me was like a 6, which was First Avenger, which you know what I mean. And my best movie was of the first Avengers or Iron Man, which I gave them both a 9. That's
Right.
like so like my scale is not too big for Marvel movies. They all fall in like a similar place. But anyways, okay, so I know we had more stuff to talk about. We should just cut this short for now, and we'll do another one. And thanks, guys, for listening. Putty, you got anything you want to plug?
No, just the channel. People, majority of people that are on here know me. Gamer Potheads. Come check me out. And you can find the link with on the channel. Just look at the featured channels, and you'll find me right there. Probably one of the first, the second person there. So.
All right. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.